giving you useful and practical tips to help you make more money selling travel. This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast, and here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
On today's episode, we are going to be chatting about all things perfection. Well, I don't know about you, but perfection is everywhere. The moment I open up social media, people's photos of their vacations, of their kids, of their everything looks absolutely perfect. Or if it's not perfect, it sure stands out and you can remember it. But here's the deal. Perfection is literally an illusion. It does not exist. There are so many filters on social media. In fact, if you've seen any of the reels lately, a lot of them are showing you this is with the filter on, this is what I actually look like, and talking about the whole catfish factor. And you know, those filters don't actually help you. There's some of them, I can't even remember what it's called. I think it's like a glow filter or something. It turns your skin orange. People can tell you're using a filter at that point. So you're not actually fooling anybody. But it's this idea that we don't want anybody to see our flaws. We don't want anybody to think that we don't have it all together, or that things might not be perfect, if you will. When I was talking at a conference a few months ago, it was an in-person, which loved. And one of the things that came up in the conversations that I was having with several of them is the lack of knowing enough, the lack of having traveled enough, the lack of, oh, I don't look good on camera. I don't, all of these different sorts of things. Oh my goodness, I hate my own voice. Did you know it's actually scientifically proven that almost everybody hates the sound of their own voice? That's okay. That's allowed. Heck, before I went live on recording this episode for you, it was very early in the morning, but they're about to start doing construction on my house. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to get this out because all my other ones are pre-recorded, but I wanted to get this one out this week. And so I'm recording this really early in the morning. You should have heard the noises I was making to get my voice woke up. And there's a good chance you can still hear that I'm still 3/4 asleep. But perfection is it's such a waste of our time. How many things have we missed out on? How many things have we not done? How many things are we waiting till things are just right, till things are just perfect? When I was at that event, these travel advisors were telling me all the reasons why they can't do things. They were telling me that, like, Facebook Live, I would say that was probably the one that came up the most. That's where I don't like my voice. What if I stumble? What if I use what if I use whatever? Here's the deal. You're human. Good news. It just means you're human. I was actually listening back to some of the episodes that I recorded over the last while. And I want to say, oh goodness, which one was it? I think it was actually might have been the one for Jazz, the pricing queen. And every other word, it seemed like, was like, absolutely. I actually even had where absolutely was used 3 times in a row. It might even have been 4, and I cringed. And part of me was like, oh my goodness, I need to remove that. I need to have the editor take all of that out. And then I realized that's going to make a really good episode, because we're going to talk about this on this episode. But here's the deal. We're going to screw it up. Another one I do is love it. You're still going to hear me say that in future, because that's just how my brain's programmed to go. And I could let all of that stop me from putting out new episodes. But what does that serve? Who does that help? It doesn't help anybody. As I'm recording this, I actually just saw my cat walk into the room because apparently the door wasn't latched. So at some point, there's a good chance you're going to hear her yowl. And I'm not going to edit it out because that's just life today. And that's what we're doing, because I got to get this done before the construction starts. And there's so much that we're waiting to get just completely perfect. That's just never getting perfect. That's just never getting all the way there, because we are so focused on what will people think? What will people say? What will people this? Oh, I can't put that out. Are you sitting on a lead generator that you can't put out because it's not perfect yet? Are you sitting on putting out a group offer or putting out something spectacular that your audience would love to have, would love to experience, would love to learn, all these different sorts of things, but you're putting it off because you didn't do it perfect yet? We could wait until everything is absolutely perfect. But what does that mean? What does perfection mean? Because here's the deal. The problem with perfection is the measure always moves. That metric is always moving, because what you thought was perfection 6 months ago is no longer perfect enough for most people, because that's moved its way up the stick. It moved its way all along. You know, a really good example of that, I want you to think back to the news feeds of 2019, early 2020 on Instagram. It was an entirely different look than what it is now. We are in an entirely different world. Heck, Reels and TikToks didn't exist. Well, TikTok existed back then, but TikTok meant something completely different to a completely different audience than what it means to today's current audience. It's become less about being polished and more about being real. Keep in mind, if you got to tell people, I'm going to be authentic, I'm going to be real, I'm going to be this, you're not. If you have to tell people what they're seeing is authentic, you ain't authentic, honey. And that's just the way it is. Being authentic is a state of being. It is not a state of saying. It is a state of being. Are you looking to catfish your audience? Are you looking to put out something that's not you? Are you looking to put out you? I may have told this story on the podcast before. I don't know. I tell it quite a bit. But I remember when I got my very first consulting website built. And that was back in 2018, I think. Yeah, it was 2018. That was my first business coaching website. And I hired the best photographer in town. I got the pictures back. And I remember for the very first time in my entire life thinking, I love these photos. These will actually be the photos that I could let people see. And I was so excited to send them off to my web designer and to get them back and to have like a really good look at my website all put together. And when my website came back, I looked at it and the first thought I had was, this is a really city girl website. And my little inner country girl kind of died a little bit that day. So the first thing I did was hired that photographer to come out and do a new shoot. And I completely changed the wardrobe. I completely changed the surroundings. There was so much about everything that I did differently the next time that just made it so much better. And then when I did my next shoot with her, actually post-pandemic or mid-pandemic, I should say, I did one last summer. I was very different in how I prepared for it. And it was because it needed to be more about me. And even as it was, like I had the professional hair and that sort of thing. And there's a little part of me that I'm like, doesn't really look like my hair. I'm not sure I would do that again. I might have to find, like, I don't know, like there's just something about it. I can't tell you the power of what you putting out being a complete representation of who you are to your core, not to the core of what you want people to think you are, not to the core of what you want to be. I'm talking to the core of who you are. Because if you try and make it something you're not, there's always going to be that element living within you of, but I'm not there yet, but I'm not good enough yet, but I'm not this, I'm not that. And then you start to wonder, are people going to figure it out? Are people going to call me out? Are people going to notice? Are they going to know these things? Because that in itself can keep you absolutely paralyzed. But I want to go back to doing the Facebook Lives because I hear that over and over and over again. And I want to just kind of tell you give you a couple of tips and tricks and that sort of thing, because I never want to hear, actually, that sounds really wrong because that's making it about me. But I never want for you to feel like you can't do something because you're not good enough. You're not perfect enough at it. We don't need to judge ourselves that way. There is nothing that is going to help us in our career and in our life to tell us that we're not good enough, that we're not enough. The question you have to ask yourself is, are you willing to do what it takes? Are you willing to put your clients first? Are you willing to start out crappy and get better? So when it comes to a Facebook Live, I want you to think about a few things. First off, nobody's paying attention to what your voice is. Okay, so here's the deal. I actually love Facebook Live over doing pre-recorded videos. Why? Well, with pre-recorded videos, you can do like what do they call it? Like the armchair quarterback, where you can sit there and be like, oh, well, that wasn't good enough. Okay, I too many times. Okay, let's redo it. Oh, you know what? That piece of hair fell in my face. Let me just read. It sucks. Honest to goodnessly, it sucks. And I do have on my YouTube channel and on my socials and things like that, a series of videos, and I actually recorded them quite a few months ago, and I'm going to be doing another batch coming up. We do ideally about 10 or 12 videos at a time so that I've got several months worth of videos. But anyways, I'm putting out one this week as well that's all about perfection, paralysis, and things like that. Anyhow, I want you to watch that video. I am like going through, I did my video, even though these are pre-recorded, I try always to do them as a single cut. One, it's much easier for my editor. And two, I just feel like if I trip on a few words or things like that, if you and I were having a conversation or real, that's how it is. But on this episode in particular, it could not have been any better, because while I'm working, if you watch these videos, you're going to see from time to time my eyes dart down, because I do have like a list of like 4 or 5 bullet items that I want to talk about. And sometimes I might lose where I'm at. And so my eyes will dart down. Now that I've told you, you're going to see it, whatever, it is what it is. I know I do it. I see it. But anyhow, on this particular episode made it so much more perfect. I know where that table is that's in front of me, and I'm showing you how to record a Facebook video using your phone and a couple of my best tips with that. And I am going to give you some of those tips here too, but definitely check out the video. Anyhow, when I'm done with my cell phone, I go to set it on the table. And for some reason, my brain told me the table was directly in front of me. It was not. I literally just reached out and dumped my phone on the floor. And I didn't want to do my takeover because I was at the end. And there is this moment, you can see the flash in my eyes of, oh crap, did I really just do that? And then I just went with it. And you know what? I don't know if it's going to make you laugh, but it makes me laugh every time I watch it. And I really don't know if it's going to make you laugh, because when I show my family, they just look at me like I have 7 heads because I'm just cracking up laughing. But it made me happy. It was a total screw up. And yet I'm going to keep it in there because I could have re-recorded it, but would we have gotten the same juice, the same goodness, the same everything? Because I do talk about the fact that I don't really follow a script. I have a bit of a framework that I go through so that I know what I'm going to talk about, but I don't particularly follow a script. But on that video, you're going to get some of my best tips for doing Facebook Lives. And, we just finished talking about the fact that in pre-recorded, you can go back, you can edit things, this, that, the other. In live, you're having a conversation with your audience. Straight up, that's what it is. You are looking at your audience, you are talking to your audience, and they have an opportunity to talk back. Now, if you were having that conversation in real, what would that look like? What would that be like? Well, you're not going to sit there and say, oh, shoot, I'm umming too much. Let me go ahead and just, can you pause, forget what I said? And we're just going to, and now I'm going to re-say it. You're not going to do that. You're just going to go for it. And when you are not completely perfect, sometimes your audience will respond better. Now, they don't want you to be completely incapable or incompetent. They want a degree of competence, but they also want to know that what you do is something that they're comfortable with, that they feel as though they connect with you. The basis of sales comes down to connection. And so doing things like a Facebook Live or getting your marketing out or things like that is going to help build connection. So long as they get to connect with a real person. They don't want to connect with a facade. They don't want to connect with something that doesn't exist, but they want to connect with a real person. So how do you get to that point? Well, let's be honest. A lot of it's going to come down to having the confidence. And what is confidence? Confidence is having the courage to screw it up and then get up and try it again. That's what confidence is. Confidence is not something you're just born with. Confidence is having courage. It is being able to step outside your comfort zone, to allow yourself to screw up and then dust yourself off and get going again. If you haven't screwed something up, you're not trying. And I don't mean that like in a really nasty, horrible way. I mean that you're probably not taking action. That you're probably just doing status quo. And status quo is fine when you don't want anything to change. But if you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening to other podcasts, if you're reading books, if you are doing anything that will expand or grow your mind, I'm willing to bet that you don't want to stay the same. You're looking to grow. And in order to grow, you have to have the courage to fail. I will tell you, over the years, by far, I have learned so much more by what I screwed up than what I got right. I actually have an amazing mentor, James Wedmore, who says success is a crappy teacher. And I 100% agree. Because when you get everything right and it goes good and this, that, the other, you're like, yeah, I'm awesome because that. Meanwhile, you have no idea that behind the scenes, the people are just simply too lazy to tell you otherwise. They're like, oh, yeah, that travel agent, she was fine, but whatever. It's easier than trying to find somebody new. Rather than when there is a screw up and you get to overcome and you get to learn from it. For myself, that comes back to the hosted groups I used to do. I screwed some of them up. I took out an 85 passenger group and I lost money, like lots of money. And I did that early on. And then as time went on, I did other groups and I made money, lots of money. So, it's not, if I would have just right out of the gate nailed it, I probably never, ever would have had the success that I had afterwards because I did things completely different. I was open to new ideas. And I know that experience was so much better for my clients. And why was that experience so much better? Because I learned so much from what I did wrong. I learned how to set up boundaries. I learned how to not let clients push me around. I learned how to price things. I learned how not to be scared of charging for things. There is so much that needs to be worked on. There's so much growth that can happen when you have the courage to try. I want you to commit to trying something new. I want you to commit to having the courage to doing something different, to trying something different, to looking at something that may be so completely out of your comfort zone and deciding, I'm going to try. I'm going to have the courage to try it. Because when you have the courage, you're invincible. You are unstoppable. And more importantly, I want you to ask yourself, if I have the courage to do this today, what am I going to have the courage to do a year from now? And I am so excited that I get to have a front row seat to watch you, because I know that if you release everything within you and you grab onto that courage and you go for it, you, my friend, are an absolutely unstoppable force. You are still in the travel industry when we come out of a pandemic. My friend, you are fierce and you deserve every bit of success that comes your way, so long as you have the courage to go for it. If we haven't already connected, please connect with me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. On Instagram, you're going to find me at Art of Selling Travel. Art of Selling Travel. On LinkedIn, I'm on there under Glenda Beagle. I want to hear from you. What are you going to have the courage to do in your business, and no longer let perfection hold you paralyzed? No longer let perfection hold you hostage. I want to know what you are going to do, because you are absolutely unstoppable. Until next time, have courage and keep it going. We'll see you then.